1.4 million U.S. students in grades 3 through 8th grade, 3rd through 8th grade this fall. And this study found that most students fell short in math, scoring an average of 5 to 10 percentile points behind students who took the same test last year. So now the students that were hit hardest by this and fell behind are African American students and Hispanic students. Now, while a majority of students did better than expected in reading, scoring at levels similar to typical non-pandemic years, this was not true for African American and Hispanic students or Latino students and those who attend high poverty schools. Those groups of students saw slight declines, suggesting the pandemic has exacerbated long-standing educational disparities, suggesting that the coronavirus pandemic has exacerbated long-standing educational disparities, possibly setting children up who are already behind their white and more affluent peers even further behind. Okay, possibly setting children who were already behind their white and more affluent peers even further behind. Quote, it's a reason for concern, and it's a reason to really focus our attention on helping catch kids up, said Megan Kuffeld, Kuhfeld, who is a senior research scientist with the NWEA and the lead author of the study. Megan Kuffeld and her colleagues analyzed scores from NWEA's MAP growth assessments, which thousands of U.S. schools give to students multiple times a year to track their progress in math and reading. They found evidence that the coronavirus pandemic related school closings have robbed some vulnerable students of important skills that could hamper their progress unless their parents and teachers act quickly to help them catch up. Quote, they could fall further and further behind if they have holes in their learning, Kuffeld said, noting that, for example, it's hard to learn to multiply fractions if you have not mastered adding and subtracting fractions. It's hard to learn multiplying fractions if you have not mastered adding and subtracting fractions. But more worrisome than the findings themselves is the fact that they only capture part of the picture. The study was limited by the fact that a high number of students, 1 in 4 students, who typically take the NWEA's widely used MAP assessment in the fall did not take it this year. Students might not have been tested because they could not connect with their online classes on test day. Because you know, to be able to go online and do all the stuff online, you need to have internet. So students might not have been tested because they could not connect with their online classes on test day. They might have been absent from school because of an illness or quarantines. They might attend schools that decided not to test at all this school year, given the many new challenges schools face because of the pandemic. Or the students missing from NWEA's data might not be in school at all. Check out the rest of this article here from NBC News. When COVID-19 closed schools, Black, Hispanic, and poor kids took biggest hit in math, reading. Okay, this is from December 1st, 2020. We posted this at our Facebook fan page, also The African History Network. The African History Network on Facebook. So check out that article there. How's everybody doing on our social media platforms? Our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Now, today is also Richard Pryor's birthday, and we'll probably run a little bit over. We'll talk some about that on our social media platforms. We'll probably run a little bit past the top of the show. There was let me do this here. There's a clip from the Tonight Show. Found a clip from the Tonight Show from 1983. And Johnny Carson, he was hosting, and he interviewed Richard Pryor. Okay. Now this is 1983. On the couch also was Betty Davis, legendary actress Betty Davis. Okay. And Shakita, I'm sending this clip to you right now. Cue it up at the 20-second mark. Okay. I'm sending this clip to you right now. So this was 1983. His movie, The Toy, with Jackie Gleason, had just come out. And he's also talking about an upcoming movie, Superman 3, the third installment of the Superman series with Christopher Reeves as Superman. Let me know when you have that clip queued up, Shakita, with Christopher Reeves as Superman. And that's what I'm going to do here. Yeah, with Christopher Reeves as Superman. So he also, in this clip, had just recently gotten back from Zimbabwe, okay, in Southern Africa. So we're going to go to this clip here in just a minute. And when we go to the clip, Shakita, I got to call back in through Skype. So just reconnect me. We had a clip queued up. Let me know when we had a clip queued up. Okay, so Richard Pryor was talking about traveling to Africa, and he talked about the people in Zimbabwe, how these were some of the nicest people you ever want to meet. And he could walk around Zimbabwe and not be mobbed by people. People really didn't know who he was. And he talked about, how that was a great feeling as well. Okay. So let's go to this clip here. This is from 1983 to the Tonight Show. Stand by, everybody. All right, stand by. I'll be damned. Yeah, it's Michael. Yeah, go ahead and connect me. It's Michael calling back. All right.
Oh, and I said, I appreciate that. A lot of people say good and they don't show, but you got on the phone and called.
Thank you.
From
I mean, some people do not show, but don't call.
It has happened where
It has really happened?
yeah, where somebody will just hear that they're not feeling well and
so they don't bother to call.
yeah.
Charming.
Nobody could say as much with that word as you could. Oh, yeah. So how you been, though? Is this a new walking stick or something?
Oh, I got this in Zimbabwe.
Were you in Zimbabwe?
Yes. And I was leaving, and the gentleman gave this to me, and I'm going to keep it till I go back in April. I want him to know I still have it.
What is it? Just a walking stick?
A walking stick. One thing you can
Made out of some kind of a
hit people with.
special wood? That's beautiful. That's very beautiful. Looks like handmade.
Hope so.
What were you doing in Zimbabwe?
I just went. A friend of mine lives there.
You have a time-sharing condo there or something? I didn't know.
No, I just finished Superman in England, and I flew over there, and it's great.
Yeah?
It is great. Nicest people on the earth. This is really one of the nicest places on earth. I mean, you can go at night. I get up at the hotel about 11 at night, and you go to the park, and you sit in the park, and you see older ladies walking.
Yeah.
You know, and there's never no rapes or murders or people getting robbed.
Yeah.
You know, and not many people knew me then. It was really nice to be somewhere and just walk down the street.
And anonymously? And
Yeah.
they didn't know you?
No. And look in the window. Sometimes when you see women, you know, I try to get that look on my face, like they should recognize me.
Yeah.
I had a feeling they were saying, "What is wrong with that idiot?"
Did you miss not being recognized? There have been cases that I know of entertainers in this country who have gone to another country and think, well, I really want to get lost here so nobody will know me, which is good for about a day.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden they go to a restaurant and the maitre d' just looks at them because they don't know who they are. And all of a sudden they come back home and it starts to bother them.
I find those feelings exciting to me.
Really?
To feel that, because it's been like 15 years for me since somebody just, except the IRS, hasn't recognized me.
They're kind of pen pals of yours, aren't they? Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it.
That's
enjoyed
great. How long were you there?
I was there about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This time I'm going back for a month.
Yeah, sounds good. The Toy.
Yes.
With Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
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 That's out now.
Yep.
Right. If we've established that, did you take your kids to see it?
No, my children went. I didn't see it. I haven't seen it. But my children, no.
Why not?
I'm afraid. I don't like to go when I'm in it.
Well, Miss Davis said that also.
I put it off as long as possible because you have dreams each time of what a film will be, and you're petrified that it won't live up to that dream.
Right.
So I can wait forever before I see my work.
Are you going to go see this picture?
Oh, I don't know. You know, but I mean, I was really worried about, you know, when your kids want to see your trust agreement after they see a movie, you're kind of worried. You know? You sure we have money for college?
They want to see the will. Yeah. Well, that gives you a little insecurity. Are you a tough critic on yourself when you see yourself work?
I can't see myself. I just really cannot. I get petrified. I don't know what it is. I don't like what I see.
I had not seen the first concert you had done. I'd seen the other concert. I had not seen the one you'd done, I think, in Long Beach a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I saw that on television. I was hysterical. I literally was hysterical.
I'm
screaming with laughter. I mean, see it. It's very funny.
If I appear strange to you or something, I hope I don't.
Oh.
But it's just like, you know, in life you change. You go through a lot of changes. And sometimes it's an energy thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't drink anymore or do drugs, right? And it's really strange meeting people I used to know when I was drunk and loaded. Because I don't have the same, I don't remember them, first of all. You know, they go, Richard, how you doing? Hi.
All right, pause it right there. Pause it right there, Shakita.
You remember being here?
Pause it right there, Shakita. Okay, so that's from 1983, The Tonight Show. So Richard Pryor was born December 1st, 1940. Passed away December 10th, 2005. He was a stand-up comedian, actor, and writer. He reached a broad audience with his trenchant observations and storytelling style, and is widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential stand-up comedians of all time. You know, he influenced Eddie Murphy. He influenced a whole slew of entertainers, especially comedians. And when Richard Pryor, a lot of people don't know this, but when Richard Pryor first came out as a comedian, he wanted to be the next Bill Cosby. He was clean cut. He didn't have the goat. He didn't have the beard and things like this. He was clean cut. He was a clean comedian. That did not work for him. Okay. And for his stand-up, he really hit it big when he changed and did the crazy N-word. Okay. And I've listened to Richard Pryor albums. My dad had some Richard Pryor albums. Okay. So I remember those. And I remember those albums in Mudfoot and all these characters that he created. Now, in the 1970s, Richard Pryor wrote for such television shows as Sanford and Son and the Flip Wilson Show, and a 1973 Lily Tomlin special for which he shared an Emmy Award. When you watch the credits of Sanford and Son, like the early episodes, like the first 1 or 2 seasons, you see Richard Pryor's name in the credits. Also Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor, who were good friends. They worked on the Sanford and Son TV show, but then also on NBC there was the short-lived Richard Pryor Show. And I think it was only 4 episodes. I have all the episodes on DVD. And Richard Pryor was he was the host. It was like it's kind of like Saturday Night Live, a variety show, so to speak. And then you had John Witherspoon, Pops, Bang Bang Bang. John Witherspoon was on there. Paul Mooney was on there. You had a very young, slim, what's her name? She was on Night Court. I forgot the African American female comedian. You wouldn't even recognize her, but a lot of them were on there, and also Robin Williams. Robin Williams was on the Richard Pryor variety show as well. Okay, all right. We're out of time here. We'll continue this discussion on our social media platforms, on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael M. Hotep, IMHOTEP. You could donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App and through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Right now, it's correct your own behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. All right. Stand by. This computer is acting up on me. And then the Skype logo disappeared. So I don't know where the hell that went, so I could disconnect the call. Disconnect the damn call. Just a second here. All right. Okay, stand by. What was her name? It was Martha. Hold on just a second here. She was on Night Court also, and she was a comedian. Let me see who else they have here. Marshall Warfield. It's Marshall Warfield. Marshall Warfield was on the Richard Pryor Show also. Okay. It was a young, slim Marshall Warfield as well. You know, so she was on the Richard Pryor Show. Robin Williams as well, who went on to do Mork and Mindy and became a big star. He was on there. Paul Mooney, John Witherspoon, all these people were on the Richard Pryor Show. Now it only lasted like 4 episodes. Okay. So let's go back to this. And this information comes courtesy from Soul TV. We posted this information today from Soul TV about Richard Pryor. Now, Richard Pryor also appeared in several popular films, including Lady Sings the Blues with Diana Ross and Billy D. Williams in 1972, The Mac in 1973, Max Julian and The Mac in 1973, Uptown Saturday Night in 1974 with Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier, Uptown Saturday Night, and he was in there with Harry Belafonte. You had Harry Belafonte in that one. And you also had Harry Belafonte, and you also had Calvin Lockhart in their Uptown Saturday Night. So that's the one where they go to Madame Zenobia's. They go to the after hour spot, Madame Zenobia's, and they get robbed, in the winning lotto ticket that Sidney Poitier's character has is in his wallet when he gets robbed. So they have to try to get back the winning lottery ticket. Okay, that's Uptown Saturday Night. So I have all three of those movies, Bill Cosby, Sidney Poitier, on DVD. Uptown Saturday Night, A Piece of the Action, and Let's Do It Again. Those are classic movies from the 1970s. He was in Silver Streak in 1976. He was in the movie Car Wash in 1976, also the classic movie Car Wash. He was in Bingo Long Traveling All Stars and Motor Kings in 1976. Now that movie is about a Negro League baseball team. Okay, Bingo Long Traveling All Stars and Motor Kings, and Billy D. Williams is in that movie also. That's a really good movie because you get to learn more about the Negro baseball leagues and how they and the business side of the Negro baseball leagues, and them owning a lot of times them owning the stadiums and making money from the concession stands and all different types of things like this. And some of the teams would do what's called barnstorming. They would travel from town to town to try to get a game with the rival team and sell tickets so they can make money. Okay, put some money in their pocket so they can get to the next town and do the same thing. And it showed the promotion of the baseball game and how they would go through the town and have a marching band and have like almost like a parade to spread the word that this baseball game was going to happen between this African-American team and this African-American team, and get, go get dressed and come and buy your tickets and buy your peanuts and popcorn and things like this. Right. And then they showed the team owners who were all African-Americans, and there's a dispute between the team owners and things like this. And the owners are, more affluent, more wealthier African-Americans. So you get to see all these different dynamics. And Richard Pryor's character in Bingo Long All Stars, Richard Pryor's character, he was like Cuban. I think he was Cuban, something like that, because so when they talk about Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier in 1947 with the Brooklyn Dodgers, it was an unwritten rule. It was an unwritten rule that African-American players could not play in the major league. It wasn't a written rule. It was an unwritten rule. But if you could pass yourself off as a Cuban, you could be dark skinned, and if you could speak some Spanish and pass yourself off as a Cuban, you could play. Now, you can play if you were a Negro, American Negro. If you could pass yourself off as a Cuban, you could play. Okay. So, and this is an interesting dynamic with the Bingo Long All Stars, because in the movie, Richard Pryor's character he's passing himself off as being Cuban. Okay. So I can't remember if he actually was Cuban or not, but that he's passing himself off as being Cuban. All right. So you have the Bingo Long All Stars. You have Car Wash, the classic movie Car Wash. Then you have Which Way Is Up, 1977. Greased Lightning, 1977. Blue Collar, 1978. The Muppet Movie, 1979. And then you have in 1974, he co-wrote Blazing Saddles, the movie Blazing Saddles, directed by Mel Brooks and starring Gene Wilder. Now, Richard Pryor was to play the lead role of Bart, but the film's production studio would not insure him insurance and not insure him. And Mel Brooks chose Cleavon Little instead. Now, before his horribly damaging 1980 freebasing incident, Richard Pryor was about to start filming Mel Brooks's History of the World Part 1 in 1980, which came out in 1981, but was replaced at the last minute by Gregory Hines. Richard Pryor was also originally considered for the role of Billy Ray Valentine on Trading Places 1983 before Eddie Murphy won the part. Okay. Now, in these credits, they enlist Harlem Nights, because Harlem Nights was one of the 1988. That's one of the greatest movies right there, Harlem Nights. Now, there was too much cursing in Harlem Nights, and this is one of the criticisms of many African-American movies, and this is what white studios do. The most profane, the most vulgar language are in our movies, which then, because this is how a lot of people see us, and this reinforces these negative stereotypes they have of us as being uncouth, ignorant, savage, etc. So you see that the most vulgar, profane language in our movies, which then reinforces people's negative stereotypes about us. So therefore, these are people who have to be controlled as opposed to being protected. These are people who are more prone to criminality, and they're not like, these other people who are hardworking and things like this. These are people who are savage and subhuman. So, and if you go and you look at even, for instance, not to pick on them, but it's out there. You look at the movie Girl Trip, okay, with Queen Latifah and Jada Pinkett Smith and Regina Hall, yeah. So with them, and then you see that had a lot of vulgar language in it, a lot of cursing, vulgar language, drug usage, urinating. It's just vulgar. And so you have to ask the question. I mean, I like the sisters in the movie. But you have to ask the question, why do our movies have to have the most vulgarity and profanity? Okay. So, but once again, this plays into the stereotypes that a lot of studio heads have, and a lot of the people in Hollywood who greenlight the movies, okay, who have the power. This is how many of them see us. So they're going to greenlight movies that then reinforce these negative stereotypes, okay? And then Tiffany Haddish was in the movie also. Her character was the craziest character. Dina, her character was the craziest character. So, all right, now let me try to pull back up this clip here. Richard Pryor, I think we can go back to this. So this is from 1983. And we'll get to the story about Tulsa, Oklahoma in a minute. Well, Richard Pryor wanted to play some of that before we lost 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, because we broadcast for the first hour on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, WFDF in Detroit. So we'll go back to some more of this clip here from the Tonight Show from 1983. Okay, let's go back to this clip here. Richard Pryor is talking. So this is after his freebasing accident, and he's talking about running into people he used to get high with. Okay, let's go back to this clip.
do drugs, right? And it's really just strange meeting people I used to know when I was drunk and loaded. Because I don't have the same, I don't remember them, first of all. You know, they go, Richard, how you doing? Hi. And I find, it's real interesting.
Do you remember being here?
I was here once, wasn't I?
No.
I remember stuff, I remember stuff like this, but it's just, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Something that's not interesting.
No, yes, it is. Well, Zimbabwe will do that to you. Get real mellow. We're going to take a break and we're going to come back. Stay where you are. We're back with Richard Pryor and Betty Davis. Somebody wants Superman.
Oh, Superman. I really...
Is it Superman 3? Superman 3.
Superman, 1 was like my favorite movie, Superman. I like that. And
did you read it as a comic when you were a kid?
No.
No?
I just, in a movie. I like the movie.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work in it. I was just kidding with some people about working in it. And they called me up and I got a job.
Well, you're hot.
Yeah. I was flying. I got to tell you, flying with Christopher Reeves, Superman. And they fly you on these wires.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how they do that.
And in the studio, when you rehearse flying, it's real nice, because there's mats on the floor and there's walls, and you feel real comfortable. But then they take you outside, they put you up about 60 feet. And man, hey. I mean, I'm up there and the wires move wrong, and you get all tanked.
Are there any mats or anything when you're outside?
No, ma'am. There was
no
concrete.
Protection?
No.
You're crazy.
Yes. Well, that's been said.
Yeah. Good job. We can get an affidavit on that. Oh yeah. And listen to the little piano wires, and now they stretch you out.
But what's funny though, I was really petrified, man. I'm talking about I was ready to cry.
Yeah.
I was up there, and Chris said, "Don't worry, I've got you." And I looked at him, and I looked at his wires, and we both hanging up there like Pinocchio, and he's talking about, "I've got you." And I said, this guy really believes.
Are you Superman's pal? Is this it?
Yeah, we end up being friends. I tried to kill him, and then I ended
Was
up
he married to Lois Lane? Did they?
No, they didn't get married.
I thought they got married.
He got divorced. He kissed her and divorced her. Remember? Gave her that super kiss. Wipe her memory, clean up.
Did they ever consummate that? Consummate that relationship in the picture?
No, he wasn't Superman when he did it.
That's right. He would be Clark Kent.
Yeah, he was Clark Kent.
I didn't know that.
But in this one, he makes love to a woman as Superman. Yeah. I ain't gonna tell no more. No, it's
was he faster than
differently as Superman?
He does it faster.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Lois Lane is wearing a kryptonite coil. That's what I thought. I'm sorry about that. No, I'm not either. I think it's very late at night. Might as well drop one in there just for the late nighters. So now you go back home to.
Yeah, for a while.
You like Hawaiian music?
I like Hawaiian people. I like the music. I like the land. I love it there very much.
Yeah.
But after a while, I thought I was going to take off a year. I said, I'm taking a year off. And I'm not working. I was very serious for the first 3 or 4 weeks. And I don't know. It's just something that you start thinking. You get ideas when you're off, And so I have opportunity now to do something about it. So I'm going to.
Good, you get to start working again?
Yeah.
Great. We'll take a short time out and be right back. Hey, this has been fun. I thank you for coming, Rich. It's good to see you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you again. Miss Davis, Betty, thank you.
Oh, I've loved it.
This has
really
been a thrill tonight.
All right, so that was from 1983. The set was different. and you had the people who, I mean, you had Ed McMahon there. You had the people. That's back in the day when on the Tonight Show. So the first guest would stay on the set, or would stay on the stage, and they would move over one seat over, let the second guest sit down, and then when the third guest came out, the two would move one seat over, let that guest, and you had all of them on the stage at the same time. So a lot of talk shows and things like that today are not like that. Okay, then one guest leaves and the other guest comes, one guest leaves, the other guest comes. So that was 1983. So happy birthday to Richard Pryor, born December 1st, 1940. Now, we had, I'm going to get to the story here dealing with the Tulsa in just a minute. There was a clip that I was going to play. Things went so quickly, we didn't get a chance to get to it. But we'll go ahead and play this now. This is going back to our first story dealing with Attorney General William Barr, the Department of Justice, finding no evidence of fraud that would change the outcome of the election. We're going to go to this clip here from MSNBC to get more information behind this, because once again, now this pokes hole. This is like this is probably the biggest repudiation of these lies Donald Trump has been telling. Okay, in addition to all these court cases being thrown out for lack of evidence, all these court cases being thrown out for lack of evidence, like real evidence, not affidavits saying these votes should be thrown out because the person counting the votes was mean, or because they were too far away from me, I couldn't see. Okay, not nonsense, but actual evidence. All right, let's go to this clip here. So Barr says Justice Department found no evidence of fraud that would change election outcome. Just a second here.
Breaking news, the Associated Press reporting that breaking news, the Associated Press reporting that in a new interview, Attorney General Bill Barr says that the DOJ has not uncovered evidence of voter fraud that would change the outcome of the election. Joining me now is NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams. Pete, I want to read a little bit more from this article. In an interview with the Associated Press, Bill Barr said U.S. attorneys and FBI agents have been working to follow up specific complaints and information that they've received, but they've uncovered no evidence that would change the outcome of the election. Quote, to date, we have not seen fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election, Bill Barr told the Associated Press. Pete, you've sat down with Bill Barr a number of times. You know that he's very deliberate in what he says. Is he sending a message directly to the president with this interview?
I can't say that for sure. Perhaps not directly to the president, perhaps more to the people who have been following the president's comments. In a sense, this is Bill Barr announcing all the cats that didn't go up a tree, because the fact that this was the Justice Department and FBI's conclusions is self-evident from the fact that they haven't done anything since he originally sent that memo out empowering local prosecutors to look into allegations of fraud. And the Justice Department has disclosed some of the complaints that they've gotten. For example, the one that people in Nevada were voting who were not residents. There was a claim of fraud. There was a letter sent to the Attorney General claiming that was fraud. And the Justice Department said at the time that they would look into it, and nothing ever came of it. So, I mean, this was to some extent a foregone conclusion, but I think you're right. It does have some force when the Attorney General himself says, okay, we've looked into these allegations of fraud and we don't see anything. Now, I think it's also important to say that the Justice Department investigates crimes, and fraud is a crime. It's an intentional act. Now, that's a lot different than some of these claims that have been made in a lot of election lawsuits that the system wasn't followed right or county clerks did something wrong. These are allegations of specific fraud. I guess you could say one of the biggest allegations has been one that states intentionally used a voting system that would allow them to dump in votes for Biden. This was the claim that had been advanced by Sidney Powell, for example, about the electronic voting systems. And as you note, Mike Basalmo's interview with the Attorney General, he says, the AG says that both the Department of Homeland Security and the Justice Department have looked into that. And so far, he says, we haven't seen anything to substantiate that. So, clearly he knows who's listening to him when he speaks, but I also think he's saying the obvious, that they've looked into this and they don't find anything.
Well, Chris Krebs has said that the reason is, when he was at DHS and said it now that he's no longer at DHS, that there are paper ballots to make sure that you can't just change vote counts in the system. There are paper ballots to back up the vote counts. Pete, though, is he trying to put the genie back in the bottle here? Because he was also one of the people who was undermining the confidence in mail-in votes ahead of the election, saying that they were right. He's saying there is no fraud. It's a bit of whiplash.
Yeah, my guess is that what he's trying to do is just answer the questions from the AP. I'm not sure. I don't know if he has a larger agenda than that. But you're right. I think he raised the specter, at least, something nefarious by saying people should look into it. Now he's saying it isn't. But you could also view that, I guess, as squaring the circle or completing the circle, closing the circle, saying, OK, we've heard these complaints. We've looked into them. We empowered our U.S. attorneys to look into them, and we haven't found anything.
But Pete, he didn't have to sit down and do this interview with the Associated Press. He could have said no.
Right.
I mean, am I reading too much into it to think, the Attorney General saying yes to an interview, doesn't often do that, about this specific topic? Is it go too far to say that, it's the president's, the guy that he chose to be Attorney General.
I get where you're coming from. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I see your point. Look, I think I'm with you just maybe 1 or 2 degrees back. We're pretty much in the same place. I think you could read this as, he opened the door to this and now he's closing it.
All right. So that was
Joining
from
me now is Dr. Emilio Gonzalez.
That was from MSNBC from December 1st, 2020. Katie Tur, Barr says Justice Department found no evidence of fraud that would change election outcome. Now, a distinction has to be made between fraud and clerical error. Clerical errors are not fraud. Fraud is something deliberate, intentional. Mistakes and clerical errors are not fraud. So some people don't know the difference between the two terms in their comments that they post on social media, like this thread, show they don't know the difference. Number one. Number two, between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, there was only one candidate that encouraged their supporters to vote twice. That was Donald Trump. That's fraud. That's intentional. That's illegal. There was only one candidate that encouraged their voters to vote twice. That was Donald Trump. That he did that in North Carolina and one other state. I think it was Arizona, something like that. But but there was only one person running who did that. And he's the one screaming the loudest talking about fraud. So imagine that. This is the same guy that ran a fake university, had to pay a $24 million fine plus a $1 million settlement in the city of New York for running a fake university. So there was another story I was going to share. Let me see. Do we have this clip here? Yeah. This pay for play. Okay. Dealing with presidential pardons. Talk about fraud. Talk about criminality. Talk about a mob-like environment, mob-like mentality, etc. So on the readout, we talked about this earlier in the show. The Department of Justice investigating a pay for play scandal coming out of the White House, and we posted a couple of articles dealing with this. Let me flip back over to this here. There was one that I saw from okay, I think I have it here in this one. I'm trying to see which browser it's in. Well, there was one. We'll pull it up here. We'll come to it in just a minute here. There was one from ABC News. DOJ investigating possible criminal bribery for presidential pardon scheme. DOJ investigating possible criminal bribery for presidential pardon scheme. Okay. Newly unsealed documents reveal the Justice Department is looking into allegations that lobbyists may have tried to bribe White House officials or a related political committee in exchange for a presidential pardon. Okay. Just a second here. In exchange for a presidential pardon. We'll go to this clip here in just a minute. Now, the docket. Let's go to this.
You know, I've looked through, are now leafing through this indictment. A lot of it is blacked out. And so we don't have any idea who this person is. But what do we actually know from this indictment factually?
Well, a couple of things. And I think you're right to point out that a lot of this is redacted. So there's a lot of questions that at this hour we can't answer. But what we can, since at least August of this year, there has been an ongoing federal criminal investigation into a possible scheme whereby somebody was going to pay bribes for a pardon. And we know that because these court documents, which you've just been showing, relate to an opinion issued by the Chief Judge, Judge Beryl Howell. Now, she's somebody who may be familiar to our audience, certainly familiar to Andrew Weissman, who's joining us here, because she was the judge who oversaw the special counsel Robert Mueller's grand jury. The judge released this today, or unsealed part of this filing today, with its redactions, not identifying any particular individuals, because she made a ruling on whether or not federal prosecutors could look at certain communications between an attorney and other people who may have been involved in this scheme. And as part of that, we have some information that we gleaned from the search warrant. Apparently a search warrant that was conducted on at least 2 offices and the agents that executed it. According to the court documents, recovered 50 digital devices, which include iPhone, computers, and external hard drives, all told several terabytes of information. Based on that, in email communication, these court documents, they were able to find several crimes or criminal activity. And then I'm reading from this here. It says that namely a secret lobbying scheme in which a redacted person and a redacted person acted as lobbyists to senior White House officials, not to 2 senior White House officials, without complying with the registration requirement of the Lobbying Disclosure Act. Now, laws that you have to comply with if you're going to lobby the White House or lobby members of Congress. He did that in order to secure a pardon or reprieve of redacted. So we don't know that the individuals involved in this that may have been trying to execute the senior White House officials. The president is not named in these documents. It's unclear whether the president had any knowledge of this at all from the documents. It also says that they uncovered a related bribery conspiracy scheme in which the redacted name would offer a substantial political contribution in exchange for a presidential pardon or a reprieve of sentence. Now, for folks that closely followed the Michael Cohen saga, this is kind of similar to some of the legal arguments that came up there prior to him pleading guilty, Joy. Essentially there, there was a dispute about what prosecutors and federal investigators could look at with respect to communications that occurred between an attorney and his client. And when there's a crime fraud exception, which has come up in this, an attorney cannot exist just purely for the purposes of shielding documents if investigators ever ask for them. So if you were my attorney, Joy, and I was involved in some sort of illegal activity with Andrew Weissman, I couldn't communicate through you just to shield us and shield our documents from eventually being. The purpose of that was just to further the fraud that he and I were involved in. So that's how this came up. The judge decided to unseal it today. We may get more unsealed documents in this case in the future, but the real heart of this, the background information contained in this opinion and order, which would really tell us what the scheme was all about, which would really detail for us the specific nature of the allegations that were being looked at, that section is completely redacted. So not only are we missing names, but we're missing really kind of the heart of this investigation, but we do know that it exists. And I think importantly, and I'll conclude on this point, importantly, we know that it exists to the point where probable cause existed for a search warrant to be obtained here. So clearly other evidence has been developed that's led to this point, and now what appears to be a multi-month investigation, at least into this, Joy.
All right. So check out that clip from
Joining me now,
AM
Letitia
Joy,
James.
from AM Joy. I'm just not AM Joy, the readout. Joanne Reed on the readout December 1st, 2020. All right. I want to go to this last story here. This deals with Tulsa, Oklahoma. And this was a extensive article that I saw from TulsaWorld.com. TulsaWorld.com. We posted this article on our fan page, the African History Network, a couple of days ago, and it got over 1,000 likes. 1867 vision for what's now Oklahoma was an all-black territory of Lincoln. 1867 vision for what's now Oklahoma was an all-black territory of Lincoln. Also, African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. We have a special promotion going on for a couple more days here. We have a few slots left. So today's December 1st. So we have a promotion going on for a couple more days. Email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And you can submit a script to us or bullet points. We'll put together a 30-second to 60-second commercial. We'll do a video commercial and audio commercial. The video commercial will run when we re-air these shows on our social media platforms. The audio commercial runs in the audio podcast version of these shows. We're on 9 different audio podcast platforms. We're on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, Castbox, FM Player, TuneIn, and some other ones. Just search for the African History Network show wherever you get your podcast from. But we air these shows throughout the day on our social media platform, so people will see your commercial there. Okay. And we'll also upload your commercial to our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. So email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and we'll get you up and running today. All right. Now, there is as we said on our Monday show, there in Atlanta, there is a training coming up on Thursday, December 3rd, at the I Am Ascension Temple of Love. I Am Ascension Temple of Love, 1057 Ralph David Abernathy, West End, Atlanta, Georgia. There will be a live stream of this lecture available also. This is taking place Thursday, December 3rd, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. You'll be able to learn the tools that you need to properly assess your state of health, revitalize your cells with herbs, elixirs, and energy medicine, detoxify your total body, clear and revitalize your mind. Detoxify your total body, clear and revitalize your mind. Be equipped with the ancient wisdom that will change your life. Learn about essential oils, crystals, and color therapies for increasing your vitality. Start a new career assisting others with iridology. Okay, so this is taking place at the I Am Ascension Temple of Love, 1057 Ralph David Abernathy, West End, Atlanta, Georgia. Thursday, December 3rd, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Thursday, December 3rd, 2020, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. There'll be a free lecture and consultation and services available. Then Friday, December 4th, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., there'll be an energy healing. Saturday, December 5th, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., there'll be a lecture and all services will be available. So visit, also visit the website, Temple of Regeneration, templeofregeneration.com, templeofregeneration.com. You can also give them a call, 1-888-845-2743, 1-888-845-2743. Okay. And this is the I Am Ascension Temple of Love in Atlanta, Georgia. All right. Let's continue. Okay, so when we look at this article here from Tulsa World, 1867 vision for what's now Oklahoma was an all-black territory of Lincoln. This article came out November 26, 2020. Now, in retrospect, and probably even at the time, the chances of success were slim indeed. Creation of an all-black territory and eventually a state out, creation of a all-black territory and eventually a state out of a hunk of the United States already deeded to American Indians and an object of lust for white settlers, cattlemen, land speculators, and railroaders. Now, many Oklahomans know something of such efforts in the late 1880s. Okay, now at this time, 1867, 1880, Oklahoma is a territory of the U.S. It's not a state yet. Oklahoma becomes a state in the Union in 1907. Okay, everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Now, the same bill was so much less is known. Much less is known is that as early as 1866, a bill was introduced in Congress calling for the creation of the territory of Lincoln out of what is today the state of Oklahoma. Okay. Much less known is that as early as 1866, a bill was introduced in Congress calling for the creation of the territory of Lincoln out of what is today the state of Oklahoma. Now, many Oklahomans know something of such efforts in the late 1880s and early 1890s, led by an ambitious African-American named Edward P. McCabe, E.P. McCabe, Edward P. McCabe. So when we talk about the history of Black Wall Street, so all this here in Oklahoma, this then ties into the history of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay. And this book here by Hannibal B. Johnson, Black Wall Street from Riot to Renaissance in Tulsa's historic Greenwood District. This is probably the best book dealing with the history of Black Wall Street, the real history of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he talks about Edward P. McCabe in here as well. Edward P. McCabe was what was known as a booster. And a booster was somebody who was like a promoter who marketed to people in other states, especially African Americans, like in other states, to come into Oklahoma and to move to Oklahoma, to go to work, try to buy land, go to work on farms, things like this. So the same bill was introduced in 1867, in both cases by U.S. Representative William Lawrence, and who was an Ohio Republican, not to be confused with an Ohio Democratic representative of the same name from the same era. Neither bill seems to have gotten out of committee, and it's hard to tell how serious U.S. Representative William Lawrence was about his proposal, but it got enough attention that at least one widely circulated map published in 1867 printed the name Lincoln across the area that ultimately became Oklahoma. So originally, the state that we know as Oklahoma, originally that territory was going to be called Lincoln, and was originally going to be an all-black territory, all African-American territory. Now, the bills, which seem to have been identical, specified that all territorial officers and voters were initially to be American citizens of African descent. American citizens of African descent. Now they're saying this in 1867, of African descent. Once elected, the territorial legislature would decide eligibility. Lawrence's territory of Lincoln soon became hardly so much as a footnote in history, but its existence, even as no more than an idea, excites Ron Graham, a genealogist and historian, who kept poking and pulling until he got to the bottom of a tale he heard long ago. Now, Ron Graham, genealogist and historian, whose ancestors include Muskogee Creek Nation freedmen, Ron Graham said they were going to put us right here, like Adam and Eve in Eden. Now, the freedmen were enslaved Africans who were freed, okay? And you're going to have Muskogee, that was a nation of Creek Indians, Muskogee Creek Nation, okay? And you're going to have some Native Americans, that, especially the Choctaw, Chickasaw Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Native Americans, who are going to own some African slaves as well. Now, Ron Graham said, I believe it would have been a bigger, grander version of Black Wall Street. I believe it would have been a bigger, grander version of Black Wall Street. Now, Ron Graham, who's a genealogist and historian, began looking into the matter decades ago after a conversation with the late Robert Littlejohn, who was a Tulsa landman and historian. The search eventually led Ron Graham to the National Archives, where researchers found a copy of Lawrence's bill with the congressman's own handwriting on it. Okay, so this was Representative William Lawrence, the Republican. They found a copy of Representative William Lawrence's bill with his handwriting on it. The idea of a separate territory or nation for African Americans had already been around for some time. Some saw it as a way to free African Americans from oppression and allow them to flourish on their own. Others viewed it as a way to remove African Americans from white society an extreme form of segregation that would likely still be controlled economically and politically by the white majority. Now, Carlos Hill is an associate professor and chair of the Clara Lupper Department of African and African American Studies at the University of Oklahoma. Clara Lupper, Lupper. I think that's how you pronounce it. Carlos Hill said, quote, "This idea of an area set aside, an all black state, where black people would have the power to govern themselves, to create their own economy, to create their own rules and regulations, was something black people hoped for, He went on to say, after slavery, there was the hope of 40 acres and a mule, that they would have a measure of economic independence. Quote, it did not happen. What happened was sharecropping. What happened was debt peonage, getting into debt, owning tenant farmers, things like that, but being in debt to someone who owns the land. What happened was peonage. What happened was poverty. Okay, it did not happen. What happened was sharecropping, peonage, and poverty. Now, forced into farm labor under conditions not much different than slavery, Southern African Americans tried to find refuge on Western homesteads or in the industrial North. So many African Americans are trying to escape out of the South, escape off of the farms and plantations and sharecropping out of the South. So some are going out west, okay, in the territories like Oklahoma, other territories, California, what have you. Some are going out west, others are going up north. And then when we see the Great Migration, so when I do my presentations dealing with the Great Migration and things like this, right? In 1900, 90% of African Americans lived in the South in 1900. This is a legacy of slavery. And then we see the beginning of the Great Migration is basically right about 1915. All right. And we see from 1915 to 1970, about 6 million African Americans migrate out of the South up north and out west. If you check out my six DVD bundle pack, and we have it in digital download also, Black Migration 1619 to 2019, Black Migration 1619 to 2019. I deal with all that in that 6 DVD bundle pack. We'll post a link here. That's on sale, $45 in DVD format and $40 in digital download format. So Representative William Lawrence's motives are unclear, but his idea of turning Indian Territory, which was Oklahoma, or what was going to be called Lincoln, his idea of turning Indian Territory into a black state did not go away. 2 decades later, Edwin P. McCabe took up the cause. Born free in New York and raised in New England, Edward P. McCabe came west and was instrumental in creating some of Oklahoma's all-black towns and in founding what is now Langston University. And in Oklahoma, that was a territory that had, if it did not have the most number of all-black towns, it was right up there, probably in the top 5, if it did not have the most in the country. So Edwin P. McCabe came west and was instrumental in creating some of Oklahoma's all-black towns and in founding what is now Langston University. McCabe found few sympathetic ears in the territory or in Washington, D.C., however, and by 1908, he had thrown up his hands in frustrated surrender. Now, Oklahoma became a state in the Union in 1907. 1907. And then when you study Bass Reeves, one of the greatest lawmen in history, Bass Reeves, who captured at least 3,000 criminals, and it's believed that the character of the Lone Ranger is based off of Bass Reeves, the real life Bass Reeves. Bass Reeves was in Oklahoma. He was a deputy marshal in Oklahoma, and he had to retire in 1907 when Oklahoma became a state in the Union because of segregation laws. Okay, Jim Crow segregation laws. He couldn't be a lawman because he was of African descent. Now, Oklahoma became Oklahoma, not the land of Lincoln. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so they have some maps in here. The 13 historic all-black towns that remain in Oklahoma. They have some maps you can check out. They give you some of the names of the towns: Clearview and Vernon. Lima, Brooksville. I'm trying to skip past some of this. Just bear with me here. All right. They also have Tallahassee, Oklahoma, is considered the oldest of the surviving all-black towns of Indian Territory. The roots of the community were planted in 1850 when the Creek Nation built a school along the ruts of the Texas Road. Near the school, the population of Creek Indian freedmen increased while the population of Creeks declined. So the Creek Indian freedmen, these were basically former slaves who became part of the Creek Indian Nation. They may have married into the nation, but they became part of the Creek Indian Nation. The population of Creek freedmen increased while the population of Creeks declined. The council transferred the American Indian students to another school and gave Tallahassee, Tullahhassee. You can tell that's a Native American word, Tallahassee, to the freedmen on October 24th, 1881. The town was incorporated in 1902 and platted in 1907. The Missouri, Kansas, and Texas Railway line ran through the town of Tallahassee, not Tallahassee. That's another Native American word. Probably Creek, could be Seminole, I'm not sure. Railway line ran through the town, helping to attract settlers. In 1916, the African Methodist Episcopal Church established Flipper Davis College, the only private institution for African Americans in the state, at Tallahassee, Oklahoma. The college closed after the end of the 1935 session. Tallahassee's population held steady at nearly 200 people from 1920. In the year 2000, the town sheltered 106 citizens, and the 2010 census again found 106 people living in Tallahassee, Oklahoma. The Tallahassee Creek Indian Cemetery has been here since the turn of the century. And then when you look at Tulsa, Oklahoma, Tulsa comes from the Creek Indian word Tallahassee. That's where Tulsa comes from, the Creek Indian word Tallahassee. Okay, so check out this article. We'll post a link here from TulsaWorld.com. 1867 vision for what's now Oklahoma was an all-black territory of Lincoln. We also know December 1st is the anniversary of December 1st, 1955, when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a Cleveland Avenue bus in Montgomery, Alabama. And this goes on to start the Montgomery bus boycott, which comes out of the Montgomery Improvement Association, the Montgomery Improvement Association. And you had people like Joanne Robinson and people like E.D. Nixon, civil rights activists like E.D. Nixon. They're going to organize and they elect a minister who was new in town, had been there less than a year, to head up the Montgomery Improvement Association and to guide them, head up the Montgomery bus boycott. His name was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King did not want the job. He felt that someone who was more established in the community, more well-known, should head up the Montgomery bus boycott. He was 26 years old. He had been in Montgomery for less than a year. But people like E.D. Nixon, who was a past president of the NAACP, and people like Rosa Parks, who was a secretary for the NAACP, they felt that he was a good choice because he had been there for such a short period of time that he had not developed, enemies like maybe some of the other more established activists and civil rights leaders. So the Montgomery bus boycott began Monday morning, December 5th, 1955. It started as a one-day bus boycott, and it ended up lasting 381 days. And what ends segregation on the buses in Montgomery, Alabama was not the boycott. It was the lawsuit of Barr versus Gale, filed February 1st, 1956. February 1st, 1956. There were 4 plaintiffs in the lawsuit of Browder versus Gale: Aurelia S. Browder, Mary Louise Smith, Susie McDonald, and Claudette Colvin. Claudette Colvin, 9 months before, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama as well. All these women, these were women who refused to give up their seats also. So Rosa Parks was not the first, not to take anything away from the sister, but she was not the first one. Now, the plaintiff in the lawsuit of Browder versus Gale, Gayle, the plaintiff, one of the plaintiffs, was William A. Gale, who was the mayor of Montgomery, Alabama. And about January or February of 1956, Mayor William A. Gale openly encourages the white citizens of Montgomery, Alabama to join the White Citizens Council. Join the White Citizens Council, which started in 1954 in Mississippi as a direct backlash to the Brown versus Board of Education U.S. Supreme Court case. There's a whole nother conversation. I really want to keep this short. I ain't planning to talk this much about it, but I've written a whole article dealing with all of this. So, and I've done lectures on this as well. So to keep a very long story short, and Dr. King wrote 5 books. His first book is called The Montgomery Story, which deals with the history of the Montgomery bus boycott. They came out in 1958. I have his book here somewhere. It's in one of these stacks. This is his last book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? But The Montgomery Story was Dr. King's first book, and it's about the Montgomery bus boycott. So the lawsuit of Browder versus Gale, so they sued the mayor, William A. Gale. They sued the police chief. They sue members of the city council. They sue members of they sue owners of the Montgomery Bus Line, Inc., things like that. They sue all these people. The case goes all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. U.S. Supreme Court. U.S. Supreme Court rules that it's unconstitutional for segregation to exist on the buses in Montgomery, Alabama. After it goes through appeals, the ruling comes down, final ruling, once again, December 20th, 1956. And the Montgomery Bus Lines Inc., in the city, they agreed to abolish segregation on the buses, and African Americans can sit where they want to on the bus because they have to pay the same amount of money. They can sit where they want to on the bus, don't have to give up their seat for somebody white. So this was the beginning. This was the beginning. They had been trying to desegregate the buses there prior to that. And the template for the Montgomery bus boycott came from the Baton Rouge, Louisiana bus boycott of 1953, led by the Reverend T.J. Jemison. And that bus boycott lasted 8 days. 1953, Baton Rouge, Louisiana bus boycott led by the Reverend T.J. Jemison. There's a documentary that I watched dealing with that boycott. That one only lasted 8 days. Cost the bus line about $1,600 a day. Wasn't as successful as they wanted it to be, but they tried to. It served as a template for a more successful bus boycott in 55 and 56. And Dr. King and E.D. Nixon and others in Montgomery, Alabama, they called Reverend T.J. Jemison in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to get advice on how to handle their bus boycott. So, once again, this is the 65th anniversary of Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, which many people look at it as the beginning of the modern day civil rights movement. And she was thinking about Emmett Till when she was on the bus as well. All right. Okay, hey, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App. Then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. So if you want to donate $5, $10, $15, $25, $50, $100, whatever it is, that definitely helps, because we're here 6 days a week now instead of 1 day a week. We have been doing Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for 4 years on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. So we're still here Sunday nights. But as of October 12th, we're also here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight. So we're here 6 days a week instead of 1 day a week. So that's a much bigger time commitment for me. So that helps us to keep doing the show, finance the research, etc. You can listen to these shows in audio podcast format wherever you get your podcast from. Search for the African History Network Show. We're on iHeartRadio. Download the iHeartRadio app to your smartphone. Search for the African History Network Show. We have shows podcasted there. You can also listen to 9:10 a.m. Superstation live all day long through the iHeartRadio app, including the African History Network Show live when we're on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight, and Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. You can listen to us live through the iHeartRadio app also. And then if you're in Detroit on your AM dial, listen to 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. Okay, follow us at our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live. Follow us on YouTube at Michael M. Hotep on YouTube, IMHOTEP. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live there as well. All right, and then once again, African American business owners, we have a special promotion for you. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. We can help you get new customers, new clients. So we have a special promotion for you. Email us at customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com, and we'll put together a commercial for you, video commercial and audio commercial, no additional charge. And your video commercial will air when we rebroadcast these shows on our social media platforms, and they'll be in audio podcast format also. All right, look, hey, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. Thanks for tuning in.